So I've had a lot of people ask questions about the difference between the version 1 and the version 2 electronics. So we're just going to do a quick rundown and kind of show you some of the differences, the features, the benefits of the new one versus the old one, and then the benefits of the old one versus the new one. So we'll just start with the transmitters. You can see there's a clear difference. I feel like the new transmitter is a little bit better in the hand. It feels a little better. It's got kind of a nice kind of fake carbon fiber texture to it. One of the things I do not like is how far forward the steering wheel is. I have big hands and I can drive one-handed, but some people have complained that it's very hard to drive one-handed, whereas this one is much, much easier. But you could fix that with get a bigger custom wheel, or there's a little 3D printed stick you can add, and you can make something up to be able to attach onto there so that you can drive one hand a little easier. But overall, the feel of it is much nicer. It feels like a more quality controller. The transmitter definitely feels kind of more quality, I guess. It looks newer, right? Looks more modern. We can go through under the hood, and you'll notice that these are buttons versus dials. Now, I'll be honest, I prefer the dials. I feel like I can more quickly tune and adjust what I need to versus the buttons. But from this standpoint, they have more options. So you've got your steering trim, your throttle trim, and your steering dual rate, whereas the old remote only has steering, trim, and dual rate. That's it. We also have some indicator lights, which is kind of nice. You've got your receiver LED, and then you've got your car battery LED. I'm not sure what this G LED is, honestly. There's a G LED, but I'm not sure what that is. The car battery is nice because your battery gets low, it'll turn orange and then red. Whereas you don't have that here. We have our traditional steering and throttle reverses. So if you need to reverse those for some reason, the old remote only has steering reverse. Okay. We've got channel 3 here, and the channel 3 is here on the side, which is nice. I do like that change. Having the channel 3 right here is it's nice because you can switch it. And a lot of people will use channel 3 for their rear wheel steering. So you'll have access to the rear wheel steering right here, whereas on this controller, you're kind of doing this while you drive to control your rear wheel. And then of course our bind buttons, and that's it. Oh, there's also on this one, there's a channel 4. So I'll show you what those are for. Here's our trusty new Bronco. So the blue is the new, and you can see the different labels on there. Let's see. I'm not quite sure what those top two are for, honestly. I've plugged in my steady lights, the lights that just stay on, into the first one. And that's the bottom 2 plugs. I don't know if you can see it. Got a bunch of wires in the way here, but it's basically I put it in the bottom 2 pins, and the black is on the bottom, and that'll just give me steady lights. Just steady headlights on. I put my headlights there. Now, the head is actually what they're calling headlights, and what that is for is it's another light slot, but you're able to use your channel 3. Let me get this guy out of the way. So you're able to use your channel 3 here to control your lights. So the version 2 electronics have a built-in light controller. You have off, on, and then a flash. When these come stock, the headlights are put into the channel 3 and the fog lights are put into the steady on. I've decided to switch them. I feel like the light should always be on and the headlight or the fog lights should be able to be switched on and off. But that's what channel 3 is for. And so our head here is channel 3, or it's attached to channel 3, which is interesting because that means our actual channel 3 is usable for a servo, but it's tied to the lights. So you can see when I use my channel 3. Oh, I think we got a short. I don't think we're plugged all the way in. There we go. So now you can see when I use channel 3, we have a 3-position servo. And so you can do rear wheel steering with that. Now you don't have any trim. You have to make sure you have the right servo horn, or make a servo horn that is centered. So when you have this hooked up and it's in your rear wheel, you make sure it's centered. And then you can use left and right, which is how I have some of my rigs set up with a stock remote. But because it is tied to the head slot, your lights will change as well. And if that bothers you, you can always just unplug the lights from the head and plug them into the CLL2, and they'll just be steady on, just like your other headlights. There's also a channel 4, which you can see right there, channel 4. So we have a channel 1, which is your steering, channel 3, which is your headlights and servo, and then channel 4, which is also a servo. The difference between your channel 3 servo or plug and your channel 4 plug is that while channel 3 has 3 positions, channel 4 is this button here, and it has just a single switch back and forth, which is pretty cool. So the version 2 electronics have a lot more control. You have 2 servo slots with different functions, as well as the headlights, as well as these 2 additional, which if someone knows what those are, please tell me. I haven't done any research on this. This is just from my knowledge through experimenting, and I don't know what those are. So maybe we'll do a follow-up video. Now back to our original controller. It does have a channel 3, so you get that same feature of being able to do rear wheel steering in your channel 3. You can see on the original, we have a brake, which the new electronics do not have. So on the new electronics, it's always forward and then straight up backwards. So you'll forward, backwards immediately. In most non-crawlers, you actually have forward, and then when you hit back, it brakes, and then when you back again, you'll get reverse. So you'll forward, brake, let off, reverse. That's how most non-crawlers work. So this version 2 electronics only has forward and reverse. Version 1 electronics has this jumper, and you can remove that jumper, and then you will have brake. You'll have the forward, brake, reverse. With the jumper in, you have forward and reverse. So that's a nice feature if for some reason you wanted to do the brake. We also have 2 LED slots, which are just always on LED slots. Our auxiliary, which is actually our channel 3. So that's what's on our controller or transmitter for channel 3, and that'll function our servo in a 1, 2, 3 position. So a center, left, and right. That's how you do rear wheel steering. We have a channel 2, which is tied to our throttle. So if you were to hook a servo into that, you would have the servo would move with the throttle, and then our steering, which is our channel 1, essentially, left, right, and center, just a full proportional steering. One of the things that the version 1 electronics has that is, in my opinion, greatly missed in the version 2 electronics is the ability to use your channel 2 through a external speed control. So if your speed control inside your version 1 electronics gets fried for some reason, a lot of times, and we've got a video on it, we'll post the video right up here. A lot of times your transmitter and receiver will still work. So the receiver portion of this still works. It's just the ESC gets, fried, and you're able to use the receiver and your stock remote, and you can get an aftermarket speed control. So you can take one of your aftermarket speed controllers and motors, and you're able to plug in just like a traditional receiver that's just a receiver, and you can plug it in your speed control into that, and now you can run your brushless, you can run any motor or any speed controller that you want and use your stock electronics and your stock remote, which is very nice. If you have a lot of rigs and you're trying to use just one remote, you can use this on all your rigs, whether it's got the stock ESC or it's got an aftermarket ESC, whether it's brushless or brushed, it doesn't matter. You can use this as the receiver only. The new electronics do not allow that. I think that is a horrible decision on Horizon's part. I don't know why they did that. It just means that if you want to put in an aftermarket ESC, you have to swap and get a new receiver, and you have to use a different transmitter. So you'd have to get something like this, which sucks if you wanted to continue to use the stock transmitter, because the stock transmitter is pretty nice. I do like it. It's nice. And again, if you're using this on multiple trucks, it sucks that now you have to swap between a second, and it's also a cost thing, right? Now I have to buy a new transmitter and I have to buy a new receiver. Whereas before I could just buy my ESC. I don't have to buy everything, all new electronics. It's literally just an ESC and you're good to go. So that really sucks. That makes me super sad. Other than that though, this ESC and receiver is far superior to the original. The slow crawl on the ESC of this is much better. You can go much slower from a slow crawl standpoint. It's more smooth in its throttle control. I mean, that is very slow, right? And you compare that to the old ESC, and that's about it. And it's hard to tell when you just see the tires turning, but it's a big difference when it's actually on the ground and rolling. and when you're trying to crawl up a rock. The new electronics are just far superior. Again, the only drawback to the new electronics, in my opinion, that I can tell, is that you cannot use it as a standalone receiver. And again, that's huge though to me. I guess also the fact that you don't have a brake option, but in crawlers you don't really use that. But if you did want to pull out the electronics and use it in something else, in a road car or some sort of basher buggy where you wanted brake versus just forward and reverse, you would want that brake. But you're probably not going to do that, so it's not a huge loss. I'm kind of okay with them removing that brake function, but removing the ESC or the receiver only is just gross. Like, big mistake, Horizon. Other than that though, everything's awesome. I don't want to be poo-pooing all over it, because version 2 electronics are fantastic. The additional channels, the additional light controller, all awesome, all awesome. So good job on that, Horizon. Just, why did you remove channel 2? Why? So hopefully that helps give you some insight into the difference between these two guys. Do you have a preference? Do you like them? Do you like the new stuff over the old stuff, or do you still just prefer the old one? I know a lot of guys have been running these for a while, do have aftermarket ESCs in their trucks hooked up through their version 1 electronics, and if they switch to version 2, it's going to cost them a lot of money to buy a whole bunch of new receivers and a new transmitter. So I think that's sad. But outside of that, do you like the new look? So be sure to subscribe, be sure to comment, be sure to tell me your thoughts, like, thumbs up, hit the bell, all that stuff. We've got a cool series of videos with the new Bronco of cheap and free upgrades. We've got video 1 out right now, so this depends on when you're watching this, I guess. We'll probably have a bunch more out by the time you see this video, but worth checking out if you got the new Bronco and you're looking for some first step things, especially if you're a newer person to the hobby or these little crawlers. You definitely want to check that out, because there's some cool little tips in that video series. Anyway, hope you have a good day. Get out there, run your cars, run your trucks, crash them, bash them, smash them, but don't break the expensive parts.